Now let's take a look at the latest developments taking place at the moment in the Iran war. New series of powerful explosions have been heard in Tehran. 4 explosions were heard after Israel said it planned to strike the Evin area, warning residents to leave the designated zones. After the explosions, the Israeli military said it has struck and dismantled Iran's state radio and television broadcaster headquarters. The broadcaster also reported 2 explosions near its headquarters but said it was continuing its operations. Now, U.S. Central Command has said a total of 6 U.S. military personnel have been killed since the start of the Iran war. In a post on X, the CENTCOM said U.S. forces have recently recovered the remains of 2 previously unaccounted for service members from a facility that was struck during Iran's initial attacks in the region. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has voiced support for toppling Iran's Islamic authorities but said it was not the objective of the United States and Israeli war. Now, Rubio also said the U.S. would not deliberately target a school after Iran said 168 people died in an alleged U.S.-Israel strike. A general in Iran's Revolutionary Guards has threatened to burn any ship seeking to navigate the Strait of Hormuz. In a post on the Guards' Telegram channel, General has said that they will also attack oil pipelines and will not allow a single drop of oil to leave the region. Well, he said oil prices will reach $200 a barrel in the coming days. And we have breaking news that we just got you, where it said that Israel has launched more strikes in Lebanon. And to get more details on the same from New York, we are being joined by Adrian Calamil, fellow at Arabian Peninsula Institute, terrorism and Middle Eastern scholar and author of forthcoming book on Hezbollah. Well, thank you so much, Adrian, for joining us on this broadcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Right. We just heard the breaking news that came in that Israel has launched more strikes in Lebanon, and it has been happening from Monday. So what is your thoughts on that? Like, how is this going to unfold?
Yeah, that's a great question. What they started to do, Israel, and we saw this pre-operational work being done in southern Lebanon. That's where they were hitting them, and we have to remember this is an area that it was supposed to be. Hezbollah was supposed to disarm and remove themselves from this area, but the Lebanese government just does not have the capacity to do so. So if you look at the Hezbollah's real strongholds, it's southern Lebanon, and that's traditionally been it, and then the parts of Beirut, Dahia neighborhood being one of them. So these are 2 areas where they're hitting command and control centers. They're hitting weapon stockpiles as far as the Israelis go. They're also taking out El Manar TV, which is the Hezbollah broadcast network. It is their propaganda arm, and we also saw the same thing happen with I believe it was IRIB in the Islamic Republic. So that's part of any type of war, is once you start to take out the command and control communications, then you start to go after the state-run propaganda arm that is feeding the people in the streets misinformation or disinformation. And I would say that the Lebanese government actually came out and condemned Hezbollah for firing on Israel. Now we'll see what the government says about these most recent actions.
Correct. And does the new, interim council actually have the control, or is it the IRGC, for example, now running a military dictatorship in Iran? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion right now. I mean, that was one of the objectives, was to sow confusion amongst the enemy, so that all of a sudden the leaders at the top or what's left of them, individuals, especially guys like Ali Laranjani, Vahidi, who's head of the IRGC, Quds Force, he's been back and forth. It kind of splinters between them and the cadres who are isolated out in the field. And there's also this real fear and paranoia of using electronic communications. So yeah, it absolutely has, I would say, paralyzed the leadership to a certain degree. And I think we saw that with the regime's initial reaction with the ballistic missiles. It was kind of haphazard. Now it seems to be a little more concentrated in certain areas.
Right, Adrian, and Iran has threatened to set fire to ships in the Strait of Hormuz that, like we've heard before. Is this a hollow threat in your advice, or can they actually sustain, a total blockade there?
Yeah, another great question, and this is one of their threats that I'm less concerned about. I'm more concerned about them rocketing the UAE, Oman, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. With the Strait of Hormuz, we have to look at the composition of the Iranian Navy, the regime's Navy. It's not your traditional Navy. We've already taken care of anti-ship missile storage. We've also taken out some sea command and control parts of their fleet, and their fleet isn't your conventional fleet. To roll back the clock, 1988, they tried to do this, and the United States, with Operation Praying Mantis, really scuttled the entire Iranian fleet, and that was the end of the conflict in the Persian Gulf. So it's saber rattling. Do they have the ability to do so? They can cause some problems maybe for a little bit, but it would be fleeting.
Right, and just as you said, bombing the Gulf nations. So why do you think these nations are so quiet right now? I mean, are they safe, or do you think that they might be preparing for what is coming next on them?
Well, I think if you look at the Saudis, you look at the Gulf states, the Gulf Cooperation Committee, the GCC, they've come out and condemn these actions and condemn the Islamic Republic. I know they've been holding meetings, and the question is, are they going to start getting involved? I mean, what they've done, the regime's goal was to really terrorize them into not supporting the United States and to eventually put enough pressure on the United States to stop these actions. It's had the inverse effect. What it's done, it's pulled these Gulf states together. And we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we start using their bases, and also, we'll see if they get involved with any kinetic action.
Correct. And, President Donald Trump recently said that it will take 4 weeks, and he just changed his statement saying that it might take a month, more than a month, to actually, get all of this sorted. And based on your research, is the regime change, which is like in the transition period, actually possible in the time frame that is given by the President of the United States?
Yeah, I don't think, well, it's regime change, yes. Dismantling this current regime, yeah, I do think that is possible, especially when you look at the mobilization of the people on the streets. Now, as far as what comes in and fills that vacuum, we have to look at what's been happening in the diaspora and also inside Iran. The people have become politically charged, and they don't want some outsiders coming in and filling this vacuum. They want to take back the country themselves, and they want to go through some type of transitional process, which is run by civilian leaders. So, as far as military kinetic actions go, as far as Trump's objectives go, yeah, I could see this stretching into 5-6 weeks. As far as regime change goes, yeah, there's a lot of things that need to. I would not so much regime change, but a real transition plan. I think that will start to become more clear in the days and weeks to come, and we'll start to have a much better idea of what's going to happen, because Iran's got a history of statehood. It goes back 2,500 years, and this is not a country that was just drawn in lines in the sand. It's there's a lot of talented people that want to come back, rebuild this country, a political class, educated class, engineers, doctors, you name it. So I have a good feeling about what's going to come in behind that. And I think what everybody wants is just this regime gone, and for them to have a civilian government that they elect, and their vote counts for the first time in 47 years.
Right, and in the latest development, we saw 6 U.S. service members who have been killed so far. Would this force President Trump to move from an air campaign, which is still going on, to a full-scale ground invasion? Like, do you think that it would be possible?
Yeah, no, I really don't think that's possible. It's not to say that we're going to have boots on the ground. I mean, we'll probably, I'm not going to tip my hand here, but as far as special operators working on the ground, targeting IRGC units, you name it. But as far as our order of battle, the United States goes, you're not, the days of seeing, 100,000 boots on the ground, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 boots on the ground, those days are gone. It's a small footprint, and seeing what you've seen from our land, from our sea and air abilities is highly coordinated and really working in synergy with the Israelis at the same time. So it's just this new approach to warfare, and we've learned from our mistakes. We've learned from Iraq, we've learned from Afghanistan, and we've learned from Libya, and hopefully, and I believe we're going to get it right this time.
Correct, and IDF announced strikes on the IRIB headquarters. Is this a move to completely break the regime's ability to communicate with its people? Do you really think is that the case of attacking the headquarters?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's again one of the stated objectives. Once you start to hit, the initial phase was to blind, confuse, and to take away any type of retaliatory capabilities. Now we're starting to look at where we're looking at the next target packages, and one of them is going to be the state-owned TV. And the state-owned TV doesn't pass information to the people. It's really disinformation to the people. It's counterproductive. What they're and it's one of always the first moves in any type of air campaign is you eliminate that propaganda TV, so that the people can get information from reliable sources.
Correct, and India and other neutral powers are calling for diplomacy, but India and all of the other countries do understand the danger of nuclear Iran. But is diplomacy even an option anymore, or is the regime change the only outcome now that we have to wait and watch?
Yeah, it's that there's no room for diplomacy at this point. We've been down this path multiple times in earnest about the nuclear program. You saw it under the Obama administration. They were using carrots. Trump even tried using carrots in 2016 to 2018, then turned to the maximum pressure. And then, we're back to the point where the regime was never going to give up on its ability to enrich and reprocess. And our objective, not our stated outcome, but our objective was to make sure that this regime cannot do that, because if they did that, they would be the first country that, according to them, would not produce a nuclear weapon. Having those two abilities gives you the ability to produce a nuclear weapon. So the objective was, and I've always say, Khamenei had two choices: either hold on to his regime or hold on to his nuclear program. He held on to the nuclear program, and now his regime is in free fall. He's no longer alive. These were two freight trains coming down the track at the same time, and the Islamic Republic has really underestimated the ability of the United States and the Israeli air forces, especially when it's combined, in the way that this campaign has been managed as so far.
Right, Adrian, thank you so much for joining us today on the broadcast and sharing your insights on the same, and we'll have to wait and watch what exactly happens next. So thank you so much.
Thank you.